The text message glowed on Jenna's tablet like a neon sign in a morgue. Can't wait to see you again tonight. LP. I stood in our kitchen at 2:30 in the morning, holding my wife's forgotten device, feeling something cold and final settle in my chest. 20 years of marriage, and it comes down to this: catching your wife cheating through a text meant for someone else. My name is Nick Callahan, and I'm 47 years old. I fix things for a living: heating systems, broken pipes, electrical problems at the local community college. I'm good with my hands, better with tools than with people, and apparently blind as a bat when it comes to reading the signs that my wife has been screwing around. The front door clicked open. Jenna stumbled in, her heels in one hand, her hair messed up in that particular way that screams, "I've been horizontal recently, and not alone." "Nick?" She squinted at me in the dim light. "What are you doing up?" I held up her tablet. "You forgot this. Good thing, too, or I might have missed Logan's sweet little message." Her face went through about 6 different expressions in 2 seconds: surprise, fear, calculation, and finally landing on something I'd never seen before: defiance. "Oh." She set her heels down carefully, like she was buying time. "Well, I guess we need to talk." "I guess we do." She walked to the kitchen island, putting it between us like a barrier. Smart woman. "Nick, I've been thinking about our marriage, and I've realized something important about myself." "Let me guess. You've realized you're a cheating piece of—" "Don't." She held up a hand. "Don't make this ugly. I've realized that I want to experience other people, other men. I'm 45 years old, and I married you when I was 25. I never had a chance to explore." I stared at her. This woman I'd shared a bed with for 2 decades, who I'd held when her mother died, who I'd supported through her career changes and her dreams of starting her own marketing company. This stranger wearing my wife's face. "So you decided to start with your boss?" "Logan understands me in ways you never have." Her voice was getting stronger, more confident. "He appreciates my intelligence, my ambition. He sees me as more than just a maintenance worker's wife." There it was, the real truth, sharper than any affair. I wasn't good enough for her anymore. Maybe I never had been. "So what are you saying, Jenna? You want a divorce?" She tilted her head, considering. "I'm saying I want an open marriage. You can do whatever you want to, see other people. We can stay married but have our own lives." An open marriage. I repeated the words like they were in a foreign language. "It's very modern, Nick. Lots of couples are doing it these days." "Lots of couples," I nodded slowly. "And if I say no?" Her smile was cold as January in Maine. "Then I guess you'll have to decide what's more important, your pride or your marriage." I looked at this woman I'd loved for half my adult life, standing in our kitchen at 3 in the morning. Her makeup smeared, smelling like another man's cologne. And I felt something inside me snap clean in half. "You know what, Jenna? You're absolutely right. Our marriage is over." She blinked, clearly not expecting that response. "Nick, don't be dramatic." "I'm not being dramatic. I'm being realistic. You want to screw other men? Go ahead. But you won't be doing it as my wife." I turned and walked toward the stairs, leaving her standing there with her mouth open. "Where are you going?" she called after me. "To bed. Some of us have real jobs in the morning." But I didn't go to bed. I went to my workshop in the basement, sat in my old recliner, and started planning. Because if Jenna wanted to play games, she was about to learn that this maintenance worker had a few tricks up his sleeve. The next morning, I called in sick to work for the first time in 3 years. I had more important things to do than fix broken boilers. Jenna had already left for her job at Pinnacle Marketing when I came upstairs. She'd left a note on the kitchen counter. "Nick, let's talk tonight when we've both calmed down. We can work this out. J." I crumpled it up and threw it in the trash. Then I got to work. First stop, our joint bank accounts. 20 years of marriage means you know all your spouse's passwords, especially when she uses the same one for everything. Her maiden name plus her birth year. Not very creative for a marketing executive. I transferred half of our savings to a new account in my name only. Perfectly legal. It was my money too. Then I called our credit card companies and removed her as an authorized user. Again, perfectly legal. The cards were in my name. I was just exercising my right to control who could use them. Next, I drove to the storage facility on the outskirts of town and rented a unit. Over the next 4 hours, I moved everything of value that belonged to me. My tools, my father's coin collection, the vintage guitar I'd bought myself for my 40th birthday, and a few other items that Jenna had always taken for granted. By noon, I was sitting in Murphy's Tavern with my friend Eric, a guy I'd known since high school who worked construction and had never liked Jenna. "So, let me get this straight," Eric said, nursing his beer. She wants to keep screwing around while staying married to you? That's the gist of it. And you said no. I said more than no. I said it was over. Eric grinned. About damn time. I never understood what you saw in her anyway. She always acted like she was too good for the rest of us. Yeah, well, apparently she was right. Bullshit. Eric leaned forward. You're worth 10 of her, Nick. You just never saw it. So what's your next move? I pulled out my phone and showed him a photo I'd taken that morning, Jenna's car in our driveway. That car is titled in my name. I bought it for her last Christmas. Eric's grin got wider. Oh, this is going to be good. We finished our beers and drove to Pinnacle Marketing. Jenna's silver BMW was parked in her assigned spot, gleaming in the afternoon sun. I walked up to it with my spare key and drove it right off the lot. Eric followed in his truck. My phone rang before I'd gone 2 blocks. Nick, what the hell are you doing? Repossessing my car. You can't do that. I need that car. Should have thought of that before you decided to use it for your dates with Logan. This is insane. Bring it back right now. No. The silence stretched out for a long moment. When she spoke again, her voice was different, harder. Fine, play your little games, but this isn't over. You're right, I said. It's not? I hung up and called a buddy of mine who ran a used car lot. Hey, Danny, I've got a BMW I need to sell, today. That evening, I was back in my workshop when I heard Jenna's key in the front door. Except it wasn't her key anymore. I'd changed the locks that afternoon. She pounded on the door. Nick, open this door right now. I climbed the stairs and looked out the peephole. She was standing on our front porch with an overnight bag, looking furious and a little desperate. Go away, Jenna. This is my house, too. Was, past tense. You can't lock me out of my own home. Watch me. I could hear her fumbling with her phone, probably calling Logan. Good. Let her new boyfriend deal with her housing situation. 20 minutes later, a black Tesla pulled into my driveway. I watched from the upstairs window as a man got out, tall, well-dressed, probably handsome if you like the slick corporate type. Logan Price, I assumed. Jenna's boss and new plaything. They talked for a few minutes, their voices rising. Then Logan marched up to my front door and pounded on it like he owned the place. Open up. We need to talk. I opened the door but kept the chain on. You must be Logan. That's right. And you must be the bitter ex-husband who's acting like a child. Ex-husband. I like the sound of that. His face was flushed with anger. Look, this doesn't have to get ugly. Jenna made a mistake springing this on you so suddenly. But she's a grown woman, and she has the right to make her own choices. Absolutely. And I have the right to make mine. Such as? Such as not letting my cheating wife live in my house or drive my car. Your house? Your car? He laughed, but it sounded forced. What century are you living in, pal? This is a marriage, not a dictatorship. Was a marriage. Past tense. I started to close the door, but he put his hand against it. We're not done talking. Yeah, we are. I looked past him to where Jenna was standing by his car, watching us. Hey, Jenna, you might want to ask Logan about his wife. I bet she'd be very interested to know where he's been spending his evenings. Logan's face went white. You don't know what you're talking about. Don't I? Married 15 years, 2 kids, lives in that big colonial on Elm Street. I do my homework, Logan. He stepped back like I'd slapped him. You're crazy. No, I'm thorough, and I'm just getting started. I closed the door and locked it, leaving them standing on my porch. A few minutes later, I heard the Tesla drive away, round 1 to the maintenance worker. The next few days were quiet. Too quiet. Jenna had stopped calling, stopped coming by the house. I knew she was staying somewhere, probably with Logan or her friend Renee, but she'd gone radio silent. That should have been my first warning. I was at Murphy's Tavern on Friday night when Kathy Morrison slid into the booth across from me. Kathy lived 2 houses down from us and had always been the neighborhood's unofficial gossip coordinator. If something was happening in our little corner of the world, Kathy knew about it. Nick, she said, her eyes bright with excitement. We need to talk. About what? She pulled out her phone and showed me a photo. It was Jenna and Logan in what looked like a restaurant, sitting very close together, his hand on her thigh. Where did you get this? My sister works at Chez Laurent. She took it Wednesday night. Kathy leaned forward. But that's not the interesting part. The interesting part is what happened after dinner. She swiped to the next photo. Jenna and Logan in the restaurant parking lot, locked in what could generously be called a passionate embrace. Kathy, why are you showing me this? Because Jenna's been telling people around town that you threw her out for no reason. that you're having some kind of midlife crisis and she's the victim. Her voice hardened. I don't like liars, Nick, especially ones who try to make good men look bad. I studied the photos. They were clear, well lit, definitely incriminating. What do you want me to do with these? That's up to you, but I thought you should know what people are saying, and I thought you should have the evidence to set the record straight. She left me sitting there with her phone, staring at the pictures of my wife's betrayal. The smart thing would be to delete them and walk away, take the high road, be the bigger person. But I'd tried being the bigger person for 20 years, and where had it gotten me? I forwarded the photos to myself, then handed Kathy her phone back. Thanks. Don't mention it. Literally. Don't mention where you got them. The next morning was Saturday, which meant the weekly farmers market in the town square. It was one of those community events that everyone attended. Families, couples, teenagers looking to be seen. The kind of place where news traveled fast and reputations were made or destroyed. I set up my laptop at a coffee shop with a clear view of the market and created a fake email account. Then I did a little research on Logan Price. Turned out he was married to a woman named Patricia who taught 3rd grade at the elementary school. They had 2 kids, lived in a house worth about $400,000, and by all accounts were pillars of the community. I sent Patricia an email with the photos attached and a simple message. Thought you should know what your husband is up to. A concerned friend. Then I sat back and waited. I didn't have to wait long. And around noon, I saw Logan's Tesla pull up near the market. He got out, looking relaxed and confident, wearing expensive sunglasses and a polo shirt that probably cost more than I made in a week. Jenna wasn't with him, which was probably smart on her part. Logan was browsing the vegetable stands when a woman I recognized as his wife came marching across the square. Patricia Price was a small woman, but she moved like a guided missile, and her target was locked in. Logan. He turned, and I watched his face go through the same progression of expressions Jenna's had that night in our kitchen. Surprise, fear, calculation. Patricia? What are you doing here? What am I doing here? Her voice was loud enough that people were starting to turn and stare. What are you doing screwing around with that marketing slut? The square went dead quiet. Logan looked around desperately, realizing that half the town was watching his marriage implode in real time. Patricia, please, let's talk about this at home. Home? She laughed, but it was the kind of laugh that made people step back. You mean the home you've been lying about for months? The home where you tell me you're working late while you're actually sticking it to your employee? She pulled out her phone and held it up, showing him the photos. Did you think I wouldn't find out? Did you think I was that stupid? Logan reached for the phone, but Patricia jerked it away. Don't you dare touch me. Patricia, I can explain. Explain what? Explain how you've been making a fool of me? Explain how you've been risking our family, our reputation, our children's future for some midlife crisis fling? By now, a crowd had gathered. People were holding up their own phones, recording the confrontation. In a town this size, Logan's public humiliation would be the talk of every dinner table by evening. Please, Logan said, his voice getting desperate. Not here. Not like this. Yes, here. Yes, like this. Patricia's voice was getting stronger, more confident. Because this is what cheaters deserve. Public shame. Everyone should know what kind of man you really are. She turned to address the crowd that had gathered. Ladies and gentlemen, meet Logan Price, cheating husband, lying father, an all-around piece of garbage. The crowd murmured and shifted. Some people looked uncomfortable, but others were clearly enjoying the show. Small-town drama at its finest. Logan looked around desperately, his face red with embarrassment and anger. His eyes swept the crowd and landed on me, sitting at my table outside the coffee shop. Our eyes met across the square, and I raised my coffee cup in a mock toast. He knew. Somehow, he knew I was behind this. Patricia was still talking, telling anyone who would listen about her husband's betrayal, but Logan wasn't listening anymore. He was walking toward me, his hands clenched into fists. You, he said when he reached my table. You did this. Did what? Don't play dumb. You sent her those photos. I shrugged. I don't know what you're talking about. You're going to regret this. Am I? I stood up, and suddenly I realized I was taller than him, broader too. 20 years of manual labor had kept me in decent shape, while Logan looked like a guy who got his exercise on a treadmill. Because from where I'm standing, it looks like you're the one with regrets. He stepped closer, trying to intimidate me. You have no idea who you're messing with. Sure I do. I'm messing with a cheating coward who can't handle the consequences of his actions. You son of a... Logan! Patricia's voice cut across the square. She was marching toward us now, and she looked furious. Don't you dare start a fight in front of the whole town. You've embarrassed us enough for one day. Logan looked back and forth between his wife and me, clearly torn between his anger and his self-preservation instincts. Self-preservation won. "This isn't over," he muttered. "Yes, it is," Patricia said firmly. "We're going home. Now. We have a lot to discuss." She grabbed his arm and marched him away, leaving me standing there with half the town staring at me. I sat back down and finished my coffee, feeling pretty good about myself, but I should have known it was too easy. Jenna hadn't shown her face at the market, which meant she was planning something. And when my wife planned something, it usually meant trouble for me. I just didn't realize how much trouble until Monday morning. Monday morning, I woke up to find 3 police cars in my driveway. I threw on some clothes and went outside, where Officer Janet Mills was waiting for me. Janet and I had gone to high school together, and she'd always been fair and reasonable. "Morning, Nick. We need to talk." "About what?" "About the harassment complaint that was filed against you." My stomach dropped. "Harassment?" "Logan Price claims you've been stalking him and his family. He says you sent threatening messages to his wife and have been following him around town." I stared at her. "That's complete bullshit, Janet." "I figured as much, but I have to investigate. Can you account for your whereabouts Saturday morning between 10 and noon?" "I was at the farmer's market. Probably 50 people saw me there." "Doing what?" "Drinking coffee and watching Logan's wife tear him a new one in public." Janet almost smiled. "Yeah, I heard about that. Hell of a thing." "So what's this really about?" She looked around, making sure we were alone. "Between you and me, I think Logan's trying to get ahead of the story. Make you look like the bad guy before people start asking too many questions about why his marriage fell apart. And I think he picked the wrong guy to mess with. You've lived in this town your whole life, Nick. People know you. They know you're not the type to stalk anybody." Relief washed over me. "So, what happens now?" "Now I file a report saying there's no evidence of harassment, and I suggest Mr. Price find better ways to deal with his marital problems." After the police left, I drove to work feeling like I'd dodged a bullet. But when I got to the college, my supervisor was waiting for me. "Nick, we need to talk." Tom Bradley had been my boss for 8 years, and we'd always gotten along well, but today he looked uncomfortable. "What's up, Tom?" "I got a call this morning from someone claiming you've been using college resources for personal business." "What kind of personal business?" "Internet research, email accounts, that sort of thing." I felt my face get hot. Someone had been watching me, tracking my online activity. "Tom, I used the computer in the break room to check my email a couple of times. That's it." "I know, and normally I wouldn't care. But this person was very specific about dates and times. They seemed to know exactly what you were doing and when." "Who was it?" "They wouldn't give their name. But Nick, I have to ask. Are you going through some kind of personal situation that might affect your work?" I looked at this man who'd been a friend as well as a boss, and I realized I was at a crossroads. I could lie, try to minimize the situation, pretend everything was fine, or I could trust him with the truth. "My wife's been cheating on me with her boss. I found out last week." Tom's expression softened. "Shit, Nick, I'm sorry. Thanks. It's been a rough week." "Is that what this harassment complaint is about?" "Probably. Her boyfriend's trying to make me look like the bad guy." Tom was quiet for a moment, thinking. "Look, I can't ignore a complaint about misuse of college resources, but I can handle it quietly. Consider this a verbal warning, and let's leave it at that." "I appreciate it." "Just keep your personal business away from work, okay? Whatever you're planning, do it on your own time with your own resources." The fact that he said, "whatever you're planning," instead of, "if you're planning anything," told me everything I needed to know. Tom understood what was happening, and he wasn't entirely unsympathetic. That evening, I was in my workshop when Eric showed up with a six-pack and a grim expression. "We need to talk," he said. "About what?" "About the fact that your wife and her friends are trying to destroy your reputation." He popped open a beer and handed it to me. "I was at the diner this afternoon when Renee and some other woman came in. They were talking loud enough for half the restaurant to hear about how you've been stalking Jenna and threatening her new boyfriend. That's bullshit." "I know it's bullshit. You know it's bullshit. But they're telling anyone who'll listen that you've gone crazy with jealousy and they're afraid you might get violent." I took a long drink of beer, feeling the situation spinning out of control. What else are they saying? That you've been financially abusing Jenna, cutting off her credit cards, stealing her car, locking her out of her own house. Eric shook his head. They're painting you as some kind of controlling monster. And people are believing it? Some are, the ones who don't know you well. But Nick, that's not the worst part. What's the worst part? The worst part is that Jenna's been talking to your friends, our friends, Trying to get them to choose sides? My blood went cold. What friends? Dave Morrison called me this afternoon. Said Jenna had been by his house, crying, telling him you'd thrown her out with nothing and were trying to ruin her life. She asked him to talk to you, try to get you to be reasonable. Dave Morrison was Kathy's husband, a guy I'd known for 15 years. We'd helped each other with home repairs, borrowed tools, had barbecues in each other's backyards. What did Dave say? He said he'd think about it. But Nick, the way he said it, Eric shook his head. I think she got to him. Anyone else? Mike Chen from the bowling league. Jenna told him you'd been sending threatening messages to her boyfriend's wife and kids. Kids? I know. But she's smart, Nick. She's mixing just enough truth with the lies to make it believable. You did send those photos to Logan's wife. She's just changing the story to make you look like the aggressor. I sat there, feeling the walls closing in. Jenna wasn't just fighting back, she was going nuclear, trying to destroy my reputation, my friendships, maybe even my job. There's something else, Eric said quietly. What? Renee mentioned that Logan's thinking about filing for a restraining order, claiming you're a threat to his safety. Based on what? Based on the confrontation at the farmer's market. They're saying you threatened him. I thought back to Saturday morning, trying to remember exactly what I'd said. Had I threatened him? I'd been angry, but I didn't think I'd crossed any lines. Eric, I never threatened anybody. I believe you, but it doesn't matter what really happened. It matters what they can make people believe happened. We sat in silence for a while, drinking our beers and thinking. Finally, Eric spoke up. So what's your next move? I don't know. Maybe I should just walk away. Let her have her new life and try to rebuild mine. Eric stared at me. Are you kidding? After what she's trying to do to you? What choice do I have? If I keep fighting, she'll just escalate things more. Maybe get me arrested, get me fired. Nick, listen to me. If you back down now, if you let her win, she'll never stop. She'll keep spreading lies about you until nobody in this town will even look at you. Is that what you want? No. Then fight back. But fight smart. Don't give her any ammunition to use against you. How? Eric smiled, but it wasn't a nice smile. By letting her destroy herself. The idea came to me on Wednesday morning while I was fixing a broken water heater in the college dormitory. Sometimes the best solutions are the simplest ones. Jenna wanted to play the victim? Fine. I'd give her a stage. The annual Founders' Day festival was coming up on Saturday, the biggest event of the year in our little town. There would be food vendors, live music, and a beer garden. More importantly, there would be speeches from local dignitaries, including several members of the town council and the Chamber of Commerce. Logan Price, as the owner of one of the town's most successful marketing firms, was scheduled to give a speech about economic development at 2 o'clock. I spent the rest of the week making preparations. I rented a small storage unit across town and moved a few more valuable items there, just in case things went sideways. I also did some research on Logan's business, using the public library's computers to avoid any more complaints about misusing college resources. What I found was interesting. Pinnacle Marketing had landed several big contracts with the town over the past 2 years. The tourism campaign, the new website, promotional materials for various events. All told, Logan's company had received almost $200,000 in taxpayer money. I also discovered that Logan served on the Chamber of Commerce board, which meant he had a say in which businesses got promoted and supported by the town. It was all perfectly legal, but it painted a picture of a man with significant influence in local politics and business. On Friday evening, I was at Murphy's Tavern when Dave Morrison walked in. He looked around, spotted me, and came over to my table. Nick, we need to talk. Sure, Dave, have a seat. He sat down but didn't order a drink. His expression was serious, uncomfortable. Jenna came by the house again yesterday. So I heard. She's really upset, Nick. Says you've been making her life hell. I took a sip of my beer. What did she tell you, exactly? That you threw her out of the house with no warning, cut off her credit cards, sold her car. She says she's been sleeping on friends' couches because she can't afford a hotel. And you believe her? Dave shifted in his seat. I don't know what to believe. But she was crying, Nick. Really broken up about it. Said she just wants to work things out, but you won't even talk to her. Did she mention why I threw her out? She said you two had been having problems, growing apart. She said she'd suggested counseling, but you weren't interested. I almost laughed. Jenna's version of events was so different from reality that it might as well have been fiction. Dave, did she mention that she's been sleeping with her boss? His face changed. What? For months, apparently. She told me she wanted to see other men. When I said no, she said our marriage was over. She's having an affair. with Logan Price, married father of two, pillar of the community Logan Price. Dave stared at me. Are you sure? I pulled out my phone and showed him one of Kathy's photos, the one of Jenna and Logan kissing in the restaurant parking lot. Jesus Christ, Dave muttered. So when she tells you I threw her out for no reason, that's not exactly the whole story. Dave was quiet for a long time, studying the photo. Finally, he looked up at me. Why didn't you tell me this before? Because I figured it was my business. I didn't want to drag my friends into it. But she dragged us into it. She came to my house, sat in my kitchen, and lied to my face. Yeah, she did. Dave's expression was hardening. What else did she lie about? Probably everything. I didn't throw her out with nothing. I gave her exactly what she was entitled to under the law. Half our assets. I didn't sell her car. I repossessed my car that I'd let her use. And I didn't refuse counseling. She never suggested it. Son of a bitch. Dave shook his head. Nick, I'm sorry. I should have talked to you first before believing her story. Don't worry about it. She can be very convincing when she wants to be. What are you going to do? I'm going to let her keep digging her own grave. Saturday morning dawned clear and warm, perfect weather for the Founders' Day festival. I got to the town square early and set up a folding chair near the bandstand where the speeches would be given. The festival was in full swing by noon. Families wandered between the food trucks and craft booths, kids ran around with balloons and cotton candy, and the local high school band played patriotic songs. At 1:30, I spotted Logan near the bandstand, looking nervous and checking his watch. He was dressed in an expensive suit and tie, clearly taking his speaking engagement seriously. Jenna was with him, wearing a sundress and heels, playing the role of supportive girlfriend. They looked like the perfect power couple, successful, attractive, confident. At 2 o'clock sharp, the festival organizer introduced Logan to the crowd. He walked up to the microphone, smiled, and began his speech about economic development and community partnership. He was actually a pretty good speaker, confident, articulate, hitting all the right notes about growth and opportunity. The crowd was paying attention, nodding along with his points. That's when I stood up. Excuse me, I called out, loud enough for everyone to hear. I have a question. Logan paused, clearly not expecting to be interrupted. I'm sorry? I said I have a question. About ethics and community leadership. The crowd turned to look at me. I could see confusion on their faces. This wasn't how these events usually went. Sir, if you could wait until after the speech. No, I think this is relevant to what you're talking about. I walked closer to the bandstand, making sure my voice would carry. You're talking about partnership and trust in business relationships. So I'm wondering, how does having an affair with a married employee fit into that philosophy? The crowd went dead silent. Logan's face went white. I don't know what you're talking about. Sure you do. I pulled out my phone and held it up. I'm talking about your relationship with Jenna Callahan. You know, my wife. I could hear people murmuring, shifting, pulling out their own phones to record what was happening. Sir, this is neither the time nor the place. Really? Because I think the community has a right to know what kind of man they're listening to. A man who breaks up marriages. A man who lies to his own wife and children. Logan looked desperately toward the festival organizers, but they seemed frozen, unsure how to handle the situation. That's when Jenna stepped forward. Stop it, Nick. You're embarrassing yourself. The crowd turned to look at her, and I could see recognition dawning on some faces. People were starting to put the pieces together. Am I? Or am I just telling the truth? The truth? Jenna's voice was getting louder, more shrill. The truth is that you're a bitter, jealous man who can't accept that his marriage is over. The marriage is over because you decided to screw your boss. I decided to find someone who appreciates me, someone who doesn't take me for granted. The crowd was completely silent now, watching this domestic drama play out in front of them like a soap opera. Someone who's married with 2 kids? Logan's marriage was already over. They were just staying together for appearances. I looked at Logan, who was standing there looking like he wanted to disappear. Is that true, Logan? Was your marriage over when you started sleeping with my wife? This is insane, he muttered into the microphone, which was still on. His voice echoed across the square. What's insane is that the town council gave your company $200,000 in contracts while you were busy destroying families. That got people's attention. I could see members of the town council in the crowd looking uncomfortable. My personal life has nothing to do with my business. Doesn't it? Because my wife works for you, or worked for you. Hard to maintain professional boundaries when you're sleeping with your employees, isn't it? Logan finally stepped away from the microphone. I don't have to listen to this. No, you don't. You can walk away. just like you can walk away from your wife and kids when you get tired of them, too. He started to leave the stage, but Jenna grabbed his arm. "Don't let him do this to us," she said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "Don't let him win." Logan looked at her, then at the crowd, then back at her. And in that moment, I saw something I hadn't expected. Disgust. "Us?" he said. "There is no us, Jenna. This was a mistake." Her face crumpled. "Logan, don't say that. You said you loved me." "I said a lot of things." He pulled his arm free. "I'm going home to my wife." He walked off the stage, leaving Jenna standing there alone in front of the entire town. She looked around desperately, searching for support, for sympathy, for anything. But the crowd was just staring at her, some with pity, some with judgment, some with simple curiosity. "This isn't over, Nick," she said finally. "Yes, it is." I turned and walked away, leaving her standing there in the ruins of her new life. Sunday morning, I woke up to find my front door had been egged and my mailbox knocked over. Jenna's final act of rebellion, I assumed. Or maybe it was some of her remaining friends showing their support. I cleaned up the mess and went about my day, figuring the worst was over. I was wrong. Monday evening, I was in my workshop when I heard a car in the driveway. Through the small basement window, I could see it was Eric's truck, but he wasn't alone. Dave Morrison was with him, and both men looked grim. I went upstairs and let them in. "We need to talk," Eric said without preamble. "About what?" "About the fact that half the town thinks you're a hero and the other half thinks you're a psychopath." Dave nodded. "What you did Saturday was either brilliant or completely insane. I'm not sure which." I got 3 beers from the refrigerator and handed them out. "What are people saying?" "Depends who you ask," Eric said. "The guys at the garage think Logan got what he deserved. But some of the women are saying you humiliated Jenna unnecessarily. She humiliated herself." "Maybe. But Nick, there's something else you need to know." Dave looked uncomfortable. "Jenna's been making more accusations." "What kind of accusations?" "She's telling people you've been physically abusive, that she was afraid to stay in the house with you." I felt like I'd been punched in the stomach. "That's completely false." "I know. But she's got some people believing her. Says that's why she started the affair. She was looking for protection from you." "Protection?" I couldn't keep the anger out of my voice. "I never laid a hand on her. Not once in 20 years. "We believe you," Eric said. "But she's convincing. And after what happened Saturday, some people are thinking maybe she had good reason to be scared." I sat down heavily in my recliner. This was worse than I'd thought. Adultery was one thing. People could understand that, even forgive it. But domestic violence was different. That would destroy my reputation permanently. "There's more," Dave said quietly. "She's talking about filing a restraining order. Says you've been threatening her." "I haven't threatened anybody." "Saturday at the festival could be construed as threatening behavior." I thought back to the confrontation. Had I threatened her? I'd been angry, humiliated her publicly, but I didn't think I'd made any actual threats. "What exactly did she say I threatened?" "She's being vague about it. Just says you've made her fear for her safety." We sat in silence for a while, drinking our beers and thinking. Finally, Eric spoke up. "Nick, maybe it's time to get a lawyer." "I can't afford a lawyer." "You can't afford not to have one. If she files a restraining order based on false accusations, it'll go on your record. Could affect your job, your housing, everything." He was right, but the thought of spending thousands of dollars I didn't have on legal fees made me sick. "There might be another way," Dave said slowly. "What do you mean?" "I mean, maybe it's time Jenna faced some consequences for her lies." I looked at him. "Such as?" "Such as having her friends find out what she's really been up to. How she's been manipulating people, lying to them, using them. Her friends already know she had an affair. But do they know how she's been lying about you? Do they know she's been playing victim while trying to destroy your reputation?" I thought about it. Jenna's support system was built on the story she'd told, that she was the innocent victim of a controlling, abusive husband. If that story fell apart, what would be left? "What are you suggesting?" Dave smiled grimly. "I'm suggesting we give her friends the same treatment you gave Logan. A little public truth-telling." "Where?" "Murphy's Tavern. Thursday night. Ladies' night. That's when Renee and her crowd usually show up." I thought about it. It was risky. If it backfired, it would only make things worse. But if I did nothing, Jenna would keep spreading lies until my reputation was completely destroyed. What would I say? The truth. Show them the evidence. Let them draw their own conclusions. Thursday night, Murphy's Tavern was crowded with the usual mix of working-class locals and college kids. The ladies' night crowd had claimed their usual corner table. Renee and 3 other women I recognized as Jenna's friends and co-workers. I sat at the bar, nursing a beer and waiting for the right moment. Eric was at a table nearby, ready to back me up if things got ugly. Around 9 o'clock, I walked over to their table. "Ladies, mind if I join you?" Renee looked up at me with obvious hostility. "Actually, we do mind. That's too bad, because we need to talk. We have nothing to say to you." "Maybe not, but I have some things to say to you." I pulled out a chair and sat down before anyone could object. The other women looked uncomfortable, but nobody got up to leave. "I understand you've been hearing some stories about me lately." "We've heard the truth," one of the other women said. I thought her name was Linda, but I wasn't sure. "Have you? Because I'm wondering if Jenna mentioned why I threw her out of the house." "Because you're a controlling asshole," Renee said, "or because I caught her cheating on me with her married boss." That got their attention. I could see doubt creeping into their expressions. "She told us you two were having problems," Linda said slowly. "We were. The problem was that she was screwing Logan Price while lying to my face about it." I pulled out my phone and showed them Kathy's photos. "This is what I found. This is why our marriage ended." The women passed the phone around, studying the pictures. Their expressions were changing from hostility to confusion to something that might have been embarrassment. "She said you threw her out with nothing," another woman said. "I gave her exactly what she was entitled to under the law, half our assets. What I didn't give her was the right to keep living in my house while she was sleeping with another man. She said you were abusive. Did she? Did she show you any bruises, any medical records, any police reports?" Silence. "I know, because I never touched her. Not once. The only thing I'm guilty of is refusing to let her have her cake and eat it too." Renee was staring at the photos on my phone. "She said Logan was going to leave his wife for her." "Really? Because on Saturday, in front of half the town, he told her it was all a mistake and went home to his family." More silence. I could see the women processing this information, trying to reconcile it with the story Jenna had told them. "Why should we believe you?" Renee asked, but her voice had lost its edge. "Because unlike Jenna, I have evidence." I gestured to the phone. "Those photos don't lie, and there are witnesses to everything that happened Saturday." I stood up. "Look, I don't expect you to take my side, but before you help her destroy my reputation, you might want to ask yourself whether she's been telling you the whole truth." I walked back to the bar, leaving them sitting there with my phone and their doubts. 10 minutes later, Renee came over to me. "This doesn't make what you did Saturday right," she said. "Maybe not, but it makes it understandable." She handed me back my phone. "She really played us, didn't she?" "She played all of us." Renee looked back at her friends, then at me. "For what it's worth, I don't think you're abusive. Angry, maybe, but not abusive." "Thanks." She started to walk away, then turned back. "Nick? She's not going to stop. Even after Saturday, even after Logan dumped her, she's still talking about getting revenge on you." "What kind of revenge?" "I don't know, but she's not the same person she used to be. This whole thing has changed her, made her bitter." She was always bitter. She just hid it better before. Friday morning, I woke up to find a police car in my driveway again. But this time, it wasn't Officer Mills. It was Chief Patterson, a man I'd known casually for years. "Morning, Nick. We need to talk." "About what this time?" "About the restraining order that was filed against you yesterday." My heart sank. "By who?" "Jenna Callahan. She claims you've been harassing and threatening her." "Chief, I haven't been anywhere near her." "What about Thursday night at Murphy's Tavern?" I realized someone must have told Jenna about my conversation with her friends. "I talked to some people at a bar. That's not harassment." "According to the complaint, you approached a table of women who were minding their own business and showed them inappropriate photos." "I showed them photos of my wife cheating on me, photos that proved she'd been lying to them." Chief Patterson looked uncomfortable. "Nick, I've known you for a long time. I don't think you're a violent man, but this situation has gotten out of hand." "Because she's made it get out of hand." "Maybe so, but the restraining order has been granted. You need to stay at least 500 feet away from Jenna at all times. No contact, direct or indirect." "For how long?" 30 days initially. Then there'll be a hearing to determine if it should be extended." He handed me a copy of the order. "Nick, I'm going to give you some advice. Let this go. Move on with your life. Don't give her any more ammunition to use against you." After he left, I sat in my kitchen reading the restraining order. It was based on a sworn statement from Jenna claiming I had a history of controlling and threatening behavior, that I had publicly humiliated her, and that she feared for her safety. Most of it was lies or distortions of the truth. But it didn't matter. The order was legally binding. I was trapped. That evening, Eric came by with bad news. "She's not done," he said. "I heard from Dave that she's been talking to people at the college, trying to get you fired." "On what grounds?" "Misuse of resources. Inappropriate behavior. She's claiming you used college computers to stalk her and her boyfriend." I felt the walls closing in. If I lost my job on top of everything else, I'd be finished. "Eric, I don't know what to do. Every time I try to defend myself, she finds a way to make it worse." "Then don't defend yourself." "What do you mean?" "I mean, stop playing defense and go back on offense. But this time, do it right." "How?" Eric smiled. "By letting her destroy herself one more time. Publicly. Permanently." He pulled out his phone and showed me a text message. It was from a number I didn't recognize, but the message was clearly from Jenna. "Nick thinks he's won, but he has no idea what's coming. I'm going to ruin him completely. He'll regret the day he ever crossed me." "She sent this to Renee," Eric said, but Renee forwarded it to Dave, and Dave sent it to me. I stared at the message. She's threatening me. More than that, she's violating her own restraining order. This counts as indirect contact. So what do I do with it? You document it, and you wait for her to make her next move, because whatever she's planning, it's going to backfire spectacularly. I looked at my friend, this man who'd stood by me through the worst month of my life, and I felt something I hadn't felt in weeks. Hope. "You really think so?" "Nick, I've known Jenna for as long as you have, and the one thing I've learned about her is that she always goes too far. Always. She can't help herself." He was right. Jenna had never known when to quit, when to take a victory and walk away. It was one of the things that had made her successful in business, but it was also her biggest weakness. So what do? You wait, and when she makes her move, you'll be ready for her. Saturday morning, I found out what Jenna's next move was going to be. I was at the hardware store buying supplies to fix my damaged mailbox when Kathy Morrison approached me. "Nick, we need to talk, privately." We walked to the parking lot, away from other customers. "Jenna came by my house last night," she said. "She wanted to know if I was the one who took those photos." "What did you tell her?" "I told her I didn't know what she was talking about. But Nick, she was different, scary different. She kept talking about how you'd ruined her life and how she was going to make you pay." "Did she say how?" "She said she was going to make sure everyone in town knew what kind of man you really were. She said she had evidence that would destroy you." "What kind of evidence?" "She wouldn't say, but she seemed very confident about it." I thought about this. What evidence could Jenna possibly have? I'd been careful not to do anything illegal or even questionable. "There's something else," Kathy said. "She asked me about your workshop, wanted to know if you kept anything valuable down there." That got my attention. "Why would she want to know that?" "I don't know. But Nick, I think she might be planning to break into your house." The pieces started falling into place. Jenna was planning something dramatic, something that would make me look bad and her look like the victim. But what? Then it hit me. The restraining order. If she could claim I had violated it, if she could make it look like I had threatened or harassed her, she could have me arrested. "Kathy, I need you to do me a favor." "What?" "I need you to keep an eye on my house tonight. If you see Jenna or anyone else around there, call the police immediately." "You think she's going to try something?" "I think she's going to try to frame me for violating the restraining order." That night, I didn't go home. Instead, I parked down the street and watched my house from a distance. Eric was with me, and we took turns keeping watch. At 11:30, a car pulled into my driveway. It wasn't Jenna's car. I'd seen her driving a rental since I'd repossessed her BMW. This was a car I didn't recognize. Two figures got out and approached my front door. In the darkness, I couldn't make out who they were, but one of them was definitely female. They spent about 10 minutes at the house, then got back in the car and drove away. "What do you think they were doing?" Eric asked. "I don't know, but I'm going to find out." We waited another hour to make sure they weren't coming back, then approached the house carefully. Everything looked normal from the outside, but when I unlocked the front door, I could tell someone had been inside. Nothing was missing or obviously disturbed, but there were small signs. A chair slightly out of place, a drawer not quite closed all the way. Someone had searched my house. Then I found it. On my kitchen counter, where I couldn't possibly miss it, was a note written in Jenna's handwriting. "I know what you did. Meet me at the old quarry tomorrow at midnight if you want to keep it quiet. Come alone. I stared at the note, trying to figure out what game she was playing. What did she think I had done? And why the quarry? Then I realized what was happening. She was trying to lure me to a remote location, probably to stage some kind of confrontation that would make me look like the aggressor. Maybe she'd have witnesses hidden nearby, or maybe she'd call the police and claim I was threatening her. This is it, I told Eric. This is her big move. You're not actually going to meet her, are you? Hell no. But I am going to end this once and for all. I pulled out my phone and called Chief Patterson. Chief, it's Nick Callahan. I need to report a break-in. Sunday night at 11:45, I was hiding in the woods near the old quarry with Chief Patterson, Officer Mills, and Eric. We'd set up a surveillance position where we could see and hear everything that happened. At exactly midnight, Jenna's rental car pulled up to the quarry. She got out alone, looking around nervously. She waited for about 10 minutes, checking her watch and her phone. When it became clear I wasn't coming, she pulled out her phone and made a call. He's not here, she said, loud enough for us to hear clearly. I don't know why. What? No, I'm not going to wait any longer. This was a stupid idea anyway. She hung up and got back in her car. But instead of driving away, she sat there for another few minutes, apparently thinking. Then she got out again, walked to the edge of the quarry, and started screaming. Help! Somebody help me! He's trying to kill me! She screamed for about 30 seconds, then took out her phone and called 911. Please, you have to help me, she said in a panicked voice. My ex-husband lured me out to the old quarry, and he's threatening to kill me. I'm hiding in the woods, but I think he's looking for me. Chief Patterson looked at me and shook his head. Unbelievable. We waited until the patrol cars arrived, then stepped out of our hiding place. Evening, officers, Chief Patterson called out. False alarm. The responding officers looked confused until they saw their chief. Sir? Ms. Callahan, you're under arrest for filing a false police report. Jenna spun around, her face going white when she saw us. You were watching me? The whole time, I said, including when you broke into my house last night. I didn't break into anything. Really, because we have you on video. I held up my phone, showing her the security app I'd installed that afternoon. Breaking and entering, filing a false police report, violating your own restraining order by trying to contact me. That's quite a night's work. She looked around desperately, realizing she was trapped. This is entrapment. No, Chief Patterson said. This is justice. As they put her in handcuffs, Jenna looked at me with pure hatred. This isn't over, Nick. Yes, it is. And for the first time in weeks, I actually believed it. 3 days later, the charges against Jenna were formally filed. Breaking and entering, filing a false police report, and violating a restraining order. Her lawyer tried to work out a plea deal, but the district attorney wasn't interested in being lenient. The story spread through town like wildfire. The woman who had been playing victim, who had been trying to destroy my reputation, had been caught red-handed trying to frame me for a crime I didn't commit. Logan Price quietly left town, apparently deciding that a fresh start somewhere else was preferable to facing the continued scrutiny of his neighbors. His wife filed for divorce, and Pinnacle Marketing closed its doors. Jenna's friends, the ones who had believed her stories and supported her lies, suddenly found themselves on the wrong side of public opinion. Renee moved away within a month. The others just kept their heads down and tried to pretend they'd never been involved. As for me, I went back to my quiet life of fixing things and minding my own business. My reputation, which had been under attack for weeks, was not only restored, but enhanced. I was the man who had been wronged, but had fought back with intelligence and patience rather than violence and anger. People started treating me differently, with more respect, more consideration. I'd proven that I wasn't just a maintenance worker who could be pushed around. I was a man who could take care of himself and protect what was his. 6 months later, I ran into Dave Morrison at the hardware store. How are you doing, Nick? Good. Really good. Any word on Jenna? She took a plea deal, probation and community service. She's living with her sister in Portland now. Think she'll ever come back? I thought about it. No, she burned too many bridges here. There's nothing left for her. Dave nodded. You know, I owe you an apology. For what? For believing her stories, for not trusting you enough to get your side first. Don't worry about it. She was convincing. Still, I should have known better. I've known you for 15 years, and I've never seen you be anything but honest and decent. Thanks, Dave. That means a lot. As I drove home that day, I thought about everything that had happened. The betrayal, the lies, the public humiliation, the legal battles. It had been the worst period of my life, but also in some ways the most important. I'd learned that I was stronger than I thought, that I could fight back when I needed to, that I didn't have to accept being treated badly just to keep the peace. Most importantly, I'd learned that sometimes the best revenge isn't getting even, it's letting your enemies destroy themselves. Jenna had wanted to ruin me, but in the end, she'd only ruined herself. She'd lost her marriage, her job, her friends, her reputation, and her freedom. She'd given up everything for a man who didn't want her and a life that was built on lies. I pulled into my driveway and sat in my truck for a moment, looking at my house. It was quiet, peaceful, mine. For the first time in 20 years, I didn't have to worry about what someone else wanted or needed or expected from me. I was free. That night, I was in my workshop when I heard a car pull into the driveway. For just a moment, I felt that old, familiar anxiety. Was it Jenna? Was she back to cause more trouble? But when I looked out the window, I saw it was just Eric, coming by for our weekly beer and conversation. "How's it going?" he asked when I let him in. "Good. Quiet." "You like the quiet?" I thought about it. "Yeah, I do. Turns out I'm pretty good company for myself." We went down to the workshop and opened a couple of beers. Eric looked around at my tools, my projects, the life I'd built for myself. "Any regrets?" he asked. "About what?" "About how it all went down. About fighting back instead of just walking away." I considered the question seriously. No regrets. She made her choice when she decided to cheat. Everything that happened after that was just consequences. Even the public stuff? The humiliation? Especially that. She wanted to play games, to manipulate people, to destroy my reputation while playing the victim. She needed to learn that actions have consequences. Eric nodded. "You know, a lot of guys would have just rolled over, taken whatever she dished out and tried to move on. Maybe, but I'm not a lot of guys. I'm me. And I don't let people walk all over me anymore." "Good for you." We sat in comfortable silence for a while, drinking our beers and listening to the quiet sounds of the night. Finally, Eric spoke up. "So what's next for you?" "What do you mean?" "I mean, what do you want to do with the rest of your life? You're free now. You can do whatever you want." I thought about it. For 20 years, my life had been defined by my marriage, by what Jenna wanted and needed and expected. Now, for the first time since I was 27 years old, I could make my own choices. "I think I want to travel," I said finally. "See some places I've never been. Maybe take that trip to Alaska I always talked about." "That sounds good. What about you? Any big plans?" Eric grinned. "Actually, yeah. I've been thinking about asking Sarah out." Sarah was the librarian at the town library, a quiet, intelligent woman who'd been divorced for about 2 years. "You should do it." "Yeah? You think she'd say yes?" "I think you'll never know unless you ask." After Eric left, I stayed in my workshop for a while, thinking about the future. For the first time in months, it looked bright. I'd survived the worst thing that had ever happened to me. I'd fought back against people who tried to destroy me, and I'd won. Not through violence or revenge, but through patience, intelligence, and the simple refusal to be a victim. Jenna had wanted other men, and she'd gotten them, briefly. But in the end, she'd ended up with no one. She'd traded a husband who loved her for a series of meaningless encounters and a reputation that would follow her wherever she went. As for me, I'd traded a wife who didn't respect me for something much more valuable: self-respect. I finished my beer, turned off the lights, and headed upstairs to bed. Tomorrow was a new day, and for the first time in a long time, I was looking forward to it. The woman who had told me she wanted other men had gotten exactly what she asked for, and lost everything that mattered in the process.